now. Um, but obviously, don't say anything you don't want to record it. So the recorder's on, and switching over here. So we just watched a little video on Freitag, which is a great story, and it has a lot to do with this class. In fact, the class follows the same basic concepts of starting something with what we have at hand, not having to wait and become entrepreneurs, which are the kind of people that have to go and beg rich people for money in order to get started. I've started a bunch of different businesses over the years, and never by waiting to find somebody to give me money to get started. In fact, I've had companies try to buy my companies out, and I've told them no thanks. I'm the boss. But here's some of the fry tag bags. It's just amazing that you could take literally garbage and turn it into something amazing. Now, to go back, so we're going to switch over here to the class. Now, Christian and Arturo and Madison and Stephanie, if you missed this part before, let me just say it right now. This class is organized by the modules page. So there's two very important things. First, when we make this recording, after we're done with the recording, I upload it, and then I will send an announcement out to the class that will have a link to the recording that is unique to that link. So nobody else will ever be able to see this stuff. But these are then all listed. You'll see every one of the recordings is listed and labeled. So when we have a synchronous conference. Okay, I'd send you that. But then as soon as we video it, we'll put the link up here, and it says video of synchronous conference 12726 mission is available to view. And when we're done, it'll say video of the synchronous conference 2326 innovation is available to view. So that's that list. The second list is really the modules page, and everything in the class is organized by the modules page. So we started with what we called week zero, because remember, we didn't meet the first week. So I called it week zero. And I said, hey, just everybody introduce yourselves. And then we met for the first time, and we introduced ourselves in person. And if you recall, the first um, uh, uh, attendance pop quiz was to introduce each other, right? That was what that was all about. That was our first assignment. Go and read each other's introductions and try to figure out what's going on. Also, read the syllabus. And I will know if you read the syllabus or not because I have an ask in the syllabus. So then we said, okay, so first we do that. We introduce ourselves. We have this concept. Here's the two books that are both zip files for free, the Enterprising Nonprofits and the Accounting Game. Then last week we got to here. We said, okay, I introduced the big deliverable for the class, which is the social venture feasibility study and also the social venture sales presentation. Oh, if you guys have something to say, can you do me a favor? Can you just shout it out because it's hard. I don't have a TA. It's just me, so it's hard for me to read chats and also talk. So it says, okay, so while this is playing, I just wanted to let you know I have to leave in a little bit. Oh, no problem, no problem. I have to head out. Oh, okay, very good. Bye, Madison. Nice, thanks for joining us. Oh, she already left. Okay, and so anyway, now that's in the recording. So here's the deal. The class then starts with this thing called the entrepreneurial discovery exercise. Oh, and there's Alex has joined us. Hi, Alex. Good to see you. Can you hear me okay, Alex?
Yep, all good. I just got out of my meeting early, so I was able to join.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I sure
Yep.
appreciate it, Alex. Thanks for joining. So we started with this thing called the entrepreneurial discovery exercise, and a bunch of us have already handed it in. It's due February 2nd, but we said all the due dates are flexible anyway, so I don't really care. But I know we all need to have something to put to schedule around, and so okay. So the thing of it is, the most important part about this due date stuff is that I want you to do this before you do the next thing. Okay. So we're going to look at ourselves in our entrepreneurial discovery and we're going to try to decide what we're really good at, what we've been good at in the past, what we have skills in and expertise in, and not only that, but what accomplishments we've had. And I'm going to give you an example. I promised I would not ever uh, give you an assignment that I won't do first. Okay. So then once we do that and we decide to look at ourselves and really have a good sense of what we're good at and chart of accomplishments, then we're going to do this thing called the personal value pitch. And in it, we're going to include what's called a log line. Okay. And we said we'd talk a little bit about that tonight. A personal value pitch is, you ready? Here it is. Here's the assignment. Using the video tool and your entrepreneurial discovery information, what you just did, the assignment I asked you to do first. Prepare and execute a pitch to your classmates for your services. Whatever skills you enjoy using and think have value to your classmates, Put together 1 minute and 1 minute only. Present yourself. Include in the description your log line, a brief single sentence description. And when we're done, check out the results on the discussion page to meet some of your peers. The group from which you will choose possibly company mates or customers or suppliers or all these things that we're going to need to put together our crazy quilt. That'll make more sense as we get there. So, and you say to yourself, well, Brad, okay, so I'm going to sell myself for sale for a service that I can do based on my skills to my classmates and see if I can actually get them to give me some money. Then we had the second quiz. I gave you the answers to the second quiz last week, and I'll give you the answers to the third quiz, chapter three quiz, this week. This is what we're doing next. Okay. We just watched this video. And so if you're watching the recording of this, we watched this video together. You'll want to watch it. Okay. It's right here. Look at this heuristic. It's about a company called Freitag that we just introduced. It's fantastic. It's a couple minutes long, 10 minutes long. It's fantastic. Then you're going to do this thing called the log line exercise. You ready? And so, what is a log line? Well, this is the thing I asked you to put on the description of your personal value pitch. Okay. And what is it exactly? Well, a log line is a simple one sentence long explanation of your business or a story or a movie, and we're going to practice it. And so I said, here's the official uh, here's the official exercise, right? And this is worth 2.3 points. Uh, I'll give you an example. Okay. A guy meets girl, boat sinks. What's the movie? Okay. And now upload a one sentence log line for any movie that you want of your choice. The key is, though, you cannot use the name of the movie and you cannot use any dialogue from the movie and you cannot use any character names from the movie. The rest of the class is going to then guess. Okay. So Michael said, Guy carries a ring to a volcano. And I went ahead and I guessed and I said, it's Joe versus the volcano. That's what I thought that was. Here's the next one. Jack wrote, three friends wake up after a wild night with no memory, and a trail of chaos follows that forces them to retrace their steps. And I said, bachelor party. And then Almila said, a clever child accidentally left behind during the holidays must defend his house from others. And I said, well, that has to be a haunted house, right? And then Rebecca said, Earth is dying. A guy goes through a world wormhole to try to fix it. And I said, Star Trek. Now, these are my suggestions. I want us to go ahead and get on here and do this. Why? Because it's a skill. Okay. Learning how to summarize succinctly. In fact, here's an example from literature. I love this. I put this up here. These are 20 must-read classics with their log lines. Here's one, a witty love story where pride and first impressions nearly ruin everything. And that was for Pride and Prejudice. I'm not going to read this whole thing at you, but it's great. I like this one. I'll tell you this one. A scientist creates life and then is destroyed by his own creation. That's Frankenstein. Is that great? Is that hysterical? I think that's hysterical. All right. So those are the assignments. And going into next week, I'll illuminate the next chapter. But I want us to do these before we do anything else. So I've actually kind of throttled our progress based on it's a building, what's called a building block class, meaning like we don't want to do the next thing before you did this thing. But I promise there's a method to this madness. And let me go to my little slide deck here. I think they'll make this very clear how this works. So this is continue to share. This is all about innovation, or is it about finding an opportunity and recognizing an opportunity? If we innovate something that nobody wants, who cares? Is that entrepreneurial? Well, that's a good question. In fact, that's what we talked about last week. These two fellas, okay? This one on the left, this Schumpeter, he feels like you have to create something brand spanking new to be entrepreneurial. And this guy over here on the right, this Kersner fellow, says, that's a bunch of malarkey. No, you don't. Just take whatever exists and make it better and faster. This is where we go to chapter three. It's about assessing opportunity. Okay. And we showed a picture last week of a robot that looked like a human being. And actually, that robot was given a citizenship in Saudi Arabia. And interestingly, this is going to come in handy a little bit later. Her name is Sophia. Her name is Sophia. That's the name of the robot who has a citizenship in Saudi Arabia. I just think that's crazy. I think that's one of the craziest things I've ever heard. Anyway, we go to this thing called the pain grid. This is a little simple grid to put the heuristics of effectuation into some order. We start by thinking about problems and needs that we're interested in a general sense. Then we move into what do we have? Okay, what do we have access to? The people we know, the things we have, the knowledge that we have. And what does that sound like to you? Exactly. It's the entrepreneurial discovery exercise, right? All the stuff we have, all the people we know. Then we simply translate that, as Stuart said, and I know Stuart. He's a very good guy. The thing is, when you take, and we're going to watch five of his little videos here, short videos during the course of the course. That was the first one. They're very, very interesting. And I know all the people in the videos as well. It's pretty interesting stuff. But anyway, what do you have? And then you, as Stuart said, cleverly try to figure out how you can use what you have to fix a need and a problem. Now, we said a pain is both a need and a problem. A need is something general, and a problem is something specific. So a need is, we all need to eat. Okay. But a problem could be, hey, you know what? They don't really have very good Vindaloo here in State College. Where can I find some? That's a need and a problem. And that, if you can fix that with what you have access to, you win. Whoever you do it for, that's your customer and that's your crazy quilt. And how you say it in a single sentence is called your marketing, your log line. I feel bad Madison left because this would fit right into her marketing expertise. How can you say in a single sentence what the heck it is that you're doing? And this is what we call an opportunity recognition. The pain grid is an opportunity recognition. Let's see how it works for our Freitag fellows. Okay, here we go. The pain was it's cold in Switzerland. Can you imagine a crazier job? I can't think of a worse job in the world than being a bike messenger in Switzerland. Is that insane? I mean, I do deliveries here in State College in a car. Okay, I do DoorDash and Uber Eats, and I do Sparks for Walmart as my side gig. And I'm in a car, and there are places I won't go to here in a car, and it's not as cold here as it is in Switzerland. In fact, we had some delivery opportunities to go to Snowshoe the other day, and I said we're going to get on I-80 in a snow squall. We're going to end up dead, or best case scenario, trapped underneath a tractor trailer. And these guys are riding around on bicycles. I think that's insane. But anyway, you could call that a need and a problem, right? The need is that mail has to get sent around in Switzerland. And for some reason, they don't like to use cars. I don't know why. But these people were bike messengers. And the need was that they had to get mail from place to place on their bikes. The problem was it's cold as heck, and the backs that they had were terrible, and they leaked, and they're delivering documents like door to door, in pouring rain and sleet and snow and everything, and they'd show up with the documents, and the documents are wet. So that's a problem. What did they have access to? Well, first, they had their own bikes. They knew other bikers. Okay. So they knew that there were potential customers there. They found these garbage tarps that were being thrown away from trucks, and they went right to their parents. Okay. Do they know their parents, the people they know? Yes. They went right to the parents and they said, can we use your kid? Now, my kids have asked me some crazy things. Stephanie, I'll bet your kids have asked you some crazy things, but I doubt any of them has ever come home and said, can I take some garbage and wash it in your bathtub? Stephanie, has that ever happened to you? Have your children ever had your 14-year-old say, Mom, can I get some garbage and wash it in your bathtub? Stephanie, I'll bet that has never happened. Well, anyway, my kids have never asked me for that. And then, and by the way, can we also use your sewing machine to sew inner tubes onto these truck tarps and and cut them up with your shears? Anyway, that's a supply though. That's the stuff they had. So how do we take that and turn it into something that was a better dry deliveries for better dry deliveries? That was what they did. Who were their first customers? Other bikers. And then once other bikers were using it, some posh kids came along who were like, "Hey, that's really cool. I want that." Here's the log line: weatherproof, recycled luggage. That's it. There you go. That is called opportunity recognition. Okay. Now, you say to yourself, innovation, right? There's so many different levels of innovation. New to the world, new to a company, a product line extension, just an improved or revised something, or a something that's less expensive. And it doesn't matter what industry you're in. You could say you could be innovative in pizza because we talked about Papa John's last week, or you're inventing something brand new, like a new form of transportation, or virtual reality, or smoking cessations programs, or that it could be any kind of thing. And the way that the innovation happens, either experimental or marketing or business model or even structural, depending on how you look at it. It could be a new form of daycare, new daycare for home. It could be many different things, but our job is to assess, but beware. Okay, as we are assessing, beware that we don't get caught in something called analysis paralysis, and this is mentioned in our text. So I'm going to give you an example of something that I was able to innovate on. So this is going to be an example, right? And I'm going to show you how this is going to work. Okay, we're going to start with, oh yeah, it could be something like a new transportation mode. Yeah, that looked useful. All right, we're going to start with what we have, and we're going to say, hey, let's how would this work? So I'm going to tell you this little story here. When I graduated from college, my mission in life was to surf in Barbados all summer. Okay, but I didn't have that much money. So I got to Barbados, and I got there. Let's see. We'll go back to this stuff. I got to Barbados, and I noticed a couple of things. First of all, I noticed that it's a beautiful area and there's great surf. I wanted to stay there all summer, but I didn't really have any place to live, and I didn't really have any money or any means of a job. And so I said, well, let's look around and see what opportunity exists. The one thing I noticed first off is that driving in Barbados was on the left-hand side of the street. Okay. So they were left-hand shifters. Okay. Also, I noticed quite a few of the cars. I mean, there were no automatics there when I went there. None. Everything was a stick shift. But there were a lot of automatics in America. I'm not that old. In America, most people drove an automatic, but I had a stick shift at home. And also, I was a delivery driver for Domino's Pizza back then. Also, I happened to notice that it was very congested traffic, terrifying, insane. Basically, lanes were basically just mere suggestions, if there even were suggestions. And much of the country, much of Barbados, is completely rural. Okay, I mean, you're like bazillion miles away from anywhere as you're driving around. The other thing I happened to notice was there was a lot of old people that were coming. And when I say old people, I'm going to say they were in their 70s and 80s, even then, back when I was in my 20s. And so I said, well, what am I good at and how can I pitch myself? And I actually thought it this way. Well, first of all, uh, the wrong side of driving, okay, an uncertain area, and the cost of if you had to get a chauffeur, okay, it was very, very expensive to get a chauffeur. And I looked at myself and I said, well, what am I good at and what can I fix here? Well, first of all, I'm a professional driver, right? I know how to deliver. I know how to drive. I know all the way around that. I have a lot of experience driving a stick shift. There are a lot of retirees and vacationers around. And I had already spent some time reading the map on Barbados because I knew all the places that I wanted to surf. So I actually approached. So this would be that would be me looking at my entrepreneurial assessment, right? That's my entrepreneurial discovery assessment, that assignment. Now, this personal value pitch. In 1 minute, I actually approached an old elderly couple at the airport. I saw them getting out of the airport. I saw them looking at rental cars. I saw them looking a little unsure as to what they were going to do and how they were going to get a rental car that had a stick shift in it. And I just approached them and I said, hi, my name's Brad. I just graduated from Villanova University, and I'm here for the summer. Back home, I'm a professional driver. I have professional driving experience. I know my way around Barbados quite well, and I can get rid of your fears of driving here, and so that you can have fun on your vacation. And what I would offer is for $10 a day. As long as if we rent this car that has a roof rack on it, I put my surfboard on the roof rack. I'll be happy for $10 a day to drive you anywhere that you want to go on the island, provided I'll just take my surfboard with us. So while you're doing touristy type stuff, I'll use that same uh, conveyance to go and surf while you're doing your stuff. And they looked at me and they thought, wow, that's a pretty good deal. Now, you have to understand, $10 a day back then in Barbados was enough to live on, like well, comfortably. And so they went for it. And that was me doing my personal value pitch in a minute with the log line. Okay. And let's see, if we look back here, uh, my knowledge was I delivered pizza. I worked in three different locations there, and so I knew my way around Philadelphia and how to drive, professional driving, map reading, car maintenance. I could do careful deliveries. I got promoted actually when I was there. I was well liked at Domino's, so I felt like I had a career there, and I pitched myself as a personal chauffeur. Now, if we look at the pain grid, we can take the part here. Okay, the pain is wrong side driving, an uncertain area, and expense. Okay, it's they needed to get around. They were on vacation, and the problem was they didn't know how to drive like they were in England. Now, I also had lived in England when I was younger as well, and so I had experience driving on that side of the road as well. So I pitched what I had. I have professional driving, I have stick experience. Retiree vacationers are everywhere. That's great. I knew the Barbados well. The demand, retirees wanting fun, were afraid to drive a stick shift in a country they didn't know, and in the middle of the country, a million miles away from anybody. They liked having a young lad to come along with them as a little extra protection. The customer, retirees renting cars in Barbados near hotels and near the airport. So I got my guy, I got my people, and guess what? I was able to spend the entire summer there surfing by being a chauffeur. So I started my international chauffeur service. My log line. I was a road warrior. I would vanquish your fears of driving, and so that you can have fun uh, the summer. And so there is me. I got to surf all summer. This is very similar to Freitag, the Freitag story. Freitag started with only what they had at hand, right? They had bike products that they knew. They knew that there was a little bit of a green issue that I don't know if that even figured into, but they had access to sewing machines and bathtubs and used containers that their mom helped them out with and dad helped them out with, their parents, and their new clients were going to be their fellow riders to start with. They had trash, they had tires, they had seat belts, they had truck tires. That's it. Now, the pop participation quiz for today is, in fact, who is the most surprising citizen of Saudi Arabia? And I'll give you a hint. It's the robot's name. What was the robot's name? All right. Now, here are the quiz answers for chapter three. Okay. Chapter three, it's all about recognizing and assessing new opportunities. What did we just go over? What did we just talk about? Why did I tell you the Barbados story? How do you recognize an opportunity based on what you actually have at hand, not what you want to have at hand? This is how not to become a wantrepreneur. Well, the chapter's all about it. In fact, the social value potential of an opportunity can be found not only in what you have access to, but in the fit to the organization's mission, the mantra, which is what we talked about last week, and also the potential to create positive community perception because it has something positive about it to the community. Innovation, okay, innovation is all about understanding from the perspective of someone else's eyes, okay? It's about from somebody else's eyes what's important, okay? How does that work? And market potential actually is the opportunity that would include determining the market demand for customers and your crazy quilt. Also, we'll say here, interesting, should all businesses do strategic planning? Well, actually, you don't want to get stuck in this analysis paralysis. So probably not, probably not. But a successful entrepreneur, a social entrepreneurship or nonprofit, actually can spend too much time assessing and getting stuck in analysis paralysis. Opportunity recognition is absolutely a skill. Okay, it's a skill. You have to develop it. You have to keep opening your mind and looking at problems and looking at what you have access to and evaluating what you can do. And that's how, in fact, in the next week, we're going to get into what's called surprise or what are called unintended unintended consequences. And the cyber angels was a great example in our book of unintended consequences and surprises and how to leverage surprise and to turn that into a good thing. Okay, a good thing. Also, we said, hey, you know what? When we talk about sustainability, and again, we talked about this the first week and also last week, sustainability, when we talk about that in this class, we're talking about business sustainability. Okay. Is something sustainable? Does it cost less to make your thing than you're selling it for? And can you stay in business? And these are the things you got to think about sustainability potential, the idea development costs, the startup costs, the cost to benefit ratio. These are the sustainabilities that we're talking about in this particular class. Okay. In fact, what we realize and again, these are all answers to the quiz questions that I took. If you see where I'm yellowing it right in the text, okay, this is the text of the book. Certain conditions actually have to exist to turn an idea into a reality, okay, into a reality. Because sometimes you might have the best idea in the whole wide world, and because of the environment, the environmental milieu, the what's going on in social everything and all that stuff, it's not happening. It's just not going to happen. And if you would have wanted to start a brand spanking new restaurant in the middle of COVID, that would have been a very bad timing, right? Certain conditions were not there. So it's very important to have a clear understanding of the position of the window of opportunity, because timing is very, very, very important. Very, very, very important. And last thing here that I have for you, innovation includes, remember, looking at your service through the eyes of your user. Very, very important. All right. Now, I'm going to stop the share. I'm going to come back to Arturo and Alex. We lost Christian. I think we lost Christian. And Stephanie. You're still with us, Stephanie. Thank you for staying with us. Stephanie, has your 14-year-old ever asked you to use your bathtub to wash garbage in?
No.
Not
Thank
not yet.
goodness.
Not yet, right? Okay. Okay. So here's what that's how crazy is that of a story of the Freitag? All right. I'm going to turn off the recording. Those of us watching the recording, if you have any questions, email me 24/7. I'm always available. And those of us who met last week and didn't come this week, I hope we get to see you next week. And thanks for watching. So I'm going to turn off the recording here.